I grew up in a small desert town in New Mexico. You know the type: population, barely over 300, a single gas station, and more UFO stories than traffic lights. People here have always whispered about lights in the sky, missing cattle, and government cover-ups. I always thought it was just small-town paranoia, until the night Dry Creek lit up. It was 2 years ago. I was house-sitting for my uncle, whose property sits right near the edge of the desert, miles from anyone else. He's an old conspiracy nut, one of those guys with radio scanners and aluminum foil on the windows. I always laughed it off. That first night was quiet. Then around 3 a.m., I heard something. A hum, low, mechanical, like an engine that never revved, just vibrated. It wasn't coming from inside the house, but it was loud enough to rattle the windows. I stepped outside, and the sky was wrong. There were no stars, just a ring of lights, silently hovering over the desert beyond the Dry Creek bed. Perfectly circular, not blinking, not moving, just hanging there like they were watching. Then, every light blinked off at once. Complete silence. I ran inside and locked everything. That's when I noticed my phone wasn't working. No signal, no Wi-Fi. Every clock in the house had stopped at 3:14 a.m. I tried turning on the TV, just static. Then came the knocking, not at the front door, on the windows. All of them, in perfect rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. But no one was there. I checked. Nothing. Just empty desert. Then the knocking stopped, and the lights came back on. Not in the sky this time, inside the house. But it wasn't the overhead bulbs. It was this weird, bluish glow pouring in through the hallway. I followed it, and it led me to the guest bedroom. The glow was coming from beneath the bed. I knelt down. There was something under there. It wasn't a person. It was humanoid, but its limbs were too long. Its skin looked wet and paper-thin, almost translucent. Its head was turned toward me, but it had no eyes, just holes. It opened its mouth, and instead of speaking, I saw something. My head filled with images, flashes, like memories that weren't mine. Planets, experiments, screaming, fire, a man being pulled apart cell by cell. I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in the field behind the house. It was daylight. My phone said 6:03 a.m. I went inside. Every window was shattered, clock still frozen at 3:14, and scratched into the kitchen wall, in that same bluish glow. You were seen. Now you see. I tried to tell my uncle, but he didn't seem surprised. He just nodded and said, "They always come back for the ones they show things to." Since then, I've seen the lights every few weeks, just hovering, watching, and every time they show up, something breaks: a mirror, a window, a bird hitting the glass. Last week, I started sleepwalking. I wake up farther and farther from the house. This morning, I found myself lying at the bottom of Dry Creek, with a triangle burned into my forearm. I don't know what they want, but I think the message is clear. They're not done with me yet. I never believed in ghosts, but after living in my grandmother's old Victorian house on Maple Drive, I'm not so sure anymore. Mom inherited the place when Grandma died. It had stood empty for years, windows boarded up, paint flaking, an absolute wreck. But the price was right, and Mom thought she could renovate it, so she moved me in while the work was underway. That first night, I slept on the living room's old couch. Around 2 a.m., something woke me clear as day, a thump, 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 coming from the hallway. Half asleep and thinking it was rodents, I ignored it. The next morning, I noticed the front door was painted. Not by me, fresh, glossy black. I didn't think much of it until I woke the following night to another sound. A creak, 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 like someone dragging a chair. I sat up. The door was wide open. Panicked, I shut it and bolted it with my phone in hand. The next morning, the door was painted again, this time dark crimson red, and it had small handprints pressed into the wet paint. That evening, I stayed awake, camera rolling. At 2:13 a.m., the tapping began. Only this time it was on the doors in the hallway. I blinked half in disbelief when I saw the paint bleed under my flickering lamp, dripping down in slow, stalky rivulets. I ran down the hall past 3 doors, each painted a different color: black, red, and now white, with fresh footprints leading to it. Light footsteps stopped at the door. Then, a whisper, "Let me in." My breath caught. I tried to scream but found I couldn't move. The door's doorknob turned slowly toward me. I blacked out. The next morning, the white door was gone, replaced with a new one, painted pale blue. I backed out of the driveway and spent the next few nights at Dad's house. But the messages continued. Picture frames in Dad's hallway, painted over with dripping red. Window sills smeared black. My bedroom door blue, and it whispered in my ear at 2 a.m., "You let me in." Every surface, every exit, stained and whispered at. I tried moving again. My new apartment, painted doors in the hall. My office, painted cubicle partitions. It follows. And last night, I woke to find a door painted pure white, not on wood, but on my chest. Two simple words in black paint, "Open now." I never believed in demons until I saw one. I grew up in a quiet suburb, surrounded by friendly neighbors and well-mowed lawns. But last summer, something stirred in my rented flat that changed everything. It began one night after I'd stayed late watching a horror movie. I fell asleep on the couch, the TV flickering behind me. At around 2 a.m., I woke to a warm touch on my arm, gentle, like someone lightly pressing their hand. But when I opened my eyes, I was alone. Later that week, I read a post by someone on Ars Paranormal who wrote, "I've seen various stuff and had some weird encounters, like a mass of black with red eyes." I laughed it off, but that night, I woke again, this time to see exactly that. A shape hovered at the foot of my bed. A shifting black mass, vaguely humanoid, taller than me, with two glowing red eyes floating in the darkness. It didn't move like a person. It pulsed, like thick oil spilling in slow motion. My breath caught. My heart slammed. It leaned closer, and I could feel its anger. No whisper, no words. Just a pressure, like it was telling me something I understood without thought. "You're aware now, and you don't belong here." I slammed my eyes shut. When I looked again, it was gone. After that night, I felt watched, even in daylight. Lights flickered when I entered a room. Objects shifted. Even small things like my keys were out of place. I started waking up in cold sweats at exactly 2 a.m. every night. Then, it began appearing more deliberately. One night I woke and saw the red-eyed shadow in my bedroom mirror, behind me. I dared not turn around. I stared at the mirror, watching it slide into view next to my reflection, its form distorting the glass. The next morning, scratches were etched into the wall, thin, deep, and jagged. No reason, just anger. That same day, I posted about it online and got replies like, "It's not sleep paralysis, it's real. It's feeding off your fear." I moved out the next week, but I still don't sleep well. At the new place, I catch movement in peripheral vision, just black shapes. At night, the darkness feels alive. And sometimes when the lights go out, I swear I see two red dots staring at me from the corner of the room.